Hey everybody, I'm Johnny Montalbano from Game On. It's the first week of the NFL season. It kicked off on Thursday night with the Bills defeating the defending Super Bowl champion Rams, and now we get you set for an exciting Sunday and Monday of NFL football. And here on Game On, we are going to give you every pick against the spread. And if you watched our episode from Tuesday, episode 24, you knew that me and Hank Indictor, my co-host, both took the Bills to win and cover, and they sure did. So we're both 1-0 to start. So we're going to give you the rest of the week as we will do every Friday here on Game On. You can also check us out on our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels. Facebook.com/GameOnETB, Twitter at GameOnETB, and also on our YouTube account, ETB Network. So every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will give you our NFL picks against the spread. And unfortunately, Hank Indictor could not be here today, but I do have his picks against the spread, so we will give those to you. But joining me this week to preview and predict every game against the spread is co-host of Empty the Bench and Beyond the Bench here on the Empty the Bench podcast network, and that is Nick Morgasen. Nick, welcome. How are you?
Oh, it's my favorite time of the year. It's the football season, and I'm looking forward to the picks.
Absolutely.
Not happy about last night, but
absolutely. Yeah. But, it's only one game, and we'll see. I think the first week is always very difficult. The first 2 weeks, really, I think, are difficult, and the last week is, too, for a variety of reasons, because you really don't get a chance to really see the teams in the preseason that you're going to see here in the coming weeks. But, I'm looking at the slate of games, and some of them really stick out to me. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement. And, there's always a little bit of extra optimism. I mean, I know you're a Jet fan. I'm a Giant fan, and I'm excited to watch our teams play. I don't think it's going to be a great year for, at least on my end, for the Giants. I know you're not really that optimistic about the Jets, but this week, a lot of interesting matchups. Of course, we're going to go through every single one of them. So I've got, unfortunately, Hank Indictor, as I said, could not be here, but fortunately, I do have his pick, so we will give you his throughout. But Nick, nevertheless, let's get right into it. This is going to be, I'm looking forward to Sunday and Monday, obviously, the tradition for the next 18 weeks of, watching wall-to-wall football, and then, of course, breaking it down on our shows respectively. And we get it going, Nick, at 1 p.m. Eastern on the NFL on Fox with Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, and Shannon Spake. It's the New Orleans Saints taking on the Atlanta Falcons, with the Saints, Nick, favored by 5.5.
Yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer in our NFL preview. If you missed that, go check it out on the YouTube channel. The Falcons are going to be a bad team. They're going to be fighting for the number one overall pick. I don't like Marcus Mariota. Never liked Marcus Mariota. It's going to be a tough year for the Falcons. This is an easy one. This is a cover for me.
Yeah, and the thing is, not only Marcus Mariota, but the Falcons lost a lot of offense this year. Russell Gage going to the Bucs, and a couple of other guys dropping out. I mean, maybe Drake London, who they had, steps in a big way. But I like the Saints because I like I like them on both sides of the ball versus the Falcons. I mean, the only way you can give the Falcons a chance here is if Jameis Winston's going to have a couple of turnovers in this game. But I don't see that. I like the advantage on the Saints, both offensively and defensively, and I think they should be able to wear down Atlanta. So give me the Saints minus 5.5, game number one. Locally down here in South Carolina, this is one that I know down here people have been looking forward to for a while. One of the revenge games of week number one, as the Cleveland Browns head to Carolina to take on Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers. It's Spiro Ditas and Jay Feely on the call on the NFL on CBS. And Nick, this game has gone to a pick'em.
Yeah, this is a confusing game to me because I think this spread should be higher. I think the Panthers are going to destroy. Well, let me take that back. Baker Mayfield is going to destroy the Browns, not the Panthers, because, again, who's left for the Panthers at this point? I mean, he won it outright because obviously Sam Darnold, who I still have PTSD over as a Jet fan, got hurt. Excuse me. So I think this is easy. Take the money on the Panthers, and I think the line should be higher.
Yeah, and not only with Deshaun Watson being out, but the Browns have lost a ton of players also because of injury and stuff. I mean, you're basically your whole offense is basically around Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who's already telling you that he wants out. Nick, it's very simple. Give me the better coach. Give me the team with the better coach and the better quarterback. Give me Matt Rule. Baker Mayfield, and the Carolina Panthers, and I would not be surprised if they win this one big and then hopefully have a letdown next week. So
Now,
I'm going to
I just want to say one thing, though, which is Matt Rule has a lot to play for because he's on the hot seat because he has not performed. Everyone remembers when he was the big college football coach. Everyone said, oh, well, he has his pick of the litter. And it was kind of odd that he picked the Panthers as the team to be the head coach for. But if he doesn't win this year, he's going to be on the chopping block as a head coach.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to two players simply for the Panthers. It comes down to Baker Mayfield and Christian McCaffrey. And I do think the Panthers are going to bounce back and give you a couple of extra wins. I mean, even with their crappy quarterback play last year, let's be honest, they still ended up winning 5 games. But I think they win in a big way here in week number 1. So give me the Panthers in a pick-em over the Browns. By the way, just to go back real quick, so Hank, my co-host, has the Saints to win and cover, and he's also taking the Panthers to win in game number 2. Game number 3, we go to Chicago, where the San Francisco 49ers, Trey Lance-led San Francisco 49ers, head to Chicago to take on the Bears and Justin Fields. It's Joe Davis, Darryl Mooch Johnston, and Pam Oliver on the call on the NFL on Fox. And, you know, we've talked about West Coast teams traveling east. I think that goes away here. And take a look at it. So does Vegas think that, too. The 49ers favored by 7.
I mean, what confused me, just to go back to the opening night, there was a stat that came out between the Rams and the Bills that the Bills were 1-8-1 traveling 2,000 miles or more. Well, they kind of blew that one out the window on opening night. But the Bears are not a good team either. The Bears are going to be a tough team to watch. I like the Niners, but what's going on with the quarterback situation? Is it Trey Lance? Is it Jimmy Garoppolo? It's going to be Trey Lance officially starting, but it's going to be a distraction with Garoppolo. But the Niners are definitely the better team in this situation. Take the cover.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And the question on Chicago's side is, do they have enough of a pass rush to get to Trey Lance? And, you know, Lance is one of those new age quarterbacks. He's very, very mobile, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get to him. If they could get to him, maybe the Bears make this a field goal game, but I don't think so. And I don't believe the mentality of West Coast in that type of West Coast teams traveling to the East Coast. If you've been watching games more and more, those West Coast teams, as long as they're the better team, they win out. That's really what it comes down to. I'm going to take the Niners -7 in game number 3, and so does my co-host Hank. He also has the Niners to win and cover in game number 3. It's Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, and Evan Washburn on the call in the NFL on CBS as the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mitch Trubisky travel to take on the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals, with the Bengals favored by 6.5.
This one is really easy. Now, my co-host, Tom Albano, who said this on Empty the Bench last year, all of last year, don't disrespect the Bengals. Vegas, for some reason, had something out for the Bengals last year, who didn't trust them to win any games. They went really far. Obviously, they made the Super Bowl. Probably should have won the Super Bowl, just kind of ran out of gas making it against the Rams. I think they're going to go back possibly this coming season. I think they're going to be a good team. This is a no-brainer. This is a cover. The Steelers are Mitchell. I don't trust Trubisky at all. So this is pretty easy.
Yeah, and you know, the makings of a team being consistent for a long time is having that core group of players, and that's what the Bengals have. I mean, I know they lost tight end CJ Uzomah to the Jets, but one thing that Cincinnati did do this year, Nick, in the offseason was shore up their offensive line, which is an area that they needed to do in the worst way if you watched their games last year. So they did that. And you know what? They have the more stable quarterback right now in Joe Burrow. I agree with you. I don't trust Mr. Trubisky. I think that system, I think he'll be all right, but he's not going to survive the entire season. In fact, I think of him possibly, if he plays well enough, he could be a trade candidate because we all know that quarterbacks do get hurt. So he could be an option later on in the year. But they have the more stable quarterback and they have the more loaded roster. So give me Cincinnati -6.5. However, Hank is taking Pittsburgh to cover. He thinks the Bengals will win, but Pittsburgh will cover the 6.5. So he thinks it will be like a field goal kind of game.
How long do you think it's going to take to see the Kenny Pickett experience show up in Pittsburgh?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, Mike Tomlin's not used to changing quarterbacks like this. This is an entirely new, different thing. It'll be a matter of time.
He got me so angry during his press conferences. Well, you're not going to control when our quarterback is chosen. We control. All right, we get it. We know. We know you're the head coach. Just let it go. We know Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter at some point.
Yeah, I think it will be only a matter of time. I'd be surprised unless Trubisky shocks the world, but I don't see it happening. But yeah, so you and I are both taking Cincinnati -6.5. Hank, though, is taking Pittsburgh +6.5 to at least cover, but Cincinnati's still winning the game. We head to Detroit, where the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Detroit Lions. It's Adam Admin, Mark Schlereth, Christina Pink on the call in the NFL on Fox. So the Philadelphia Eagles, who had a very good offseason, adding a couple of wide receivers via trade and the draft, they are favored by 4.5 against the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and people get mad at me for this. I'm not a Jalen Hurts fan at all. I think he didn't have the best season last year. I think he might regress this coming season. I don't think the system is a good one for him down in Philadelphia. Don't get me wrong. They brought in A.J. Brown, which I thought was probably the pickup of the offseason, in my opinion. I think they're going to get the biggest value out of him because he was not really used well in Tennessee. But the Eagles are going to win this game. The Lions, think about who we're talking about at quarterback. Jared Goff. Have we heard any good associations of Jared Goff with anybody? No. Now, the only guy I like is, was it Hawkinson? Is the only guy I really like on Detroit. I think he's the only good player on that team, but the Eagles are going to win this game. But that NFC least is going to be an interesting division to watch.
Yeah, and I don't think it's least anymore because the Eagles to me were one of the winners of the offseason because they shored up their receiving core. And you look at the Lions, one area that stands out is the secondary. I mean, that is not a good unit. I could actually see Jalen Hurts having a big game here against that secondary, and especially when you look at they're going to try and stop the Eagles' running game. I just don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be pretty. The Lions are going to be an improved team this year, but not this week. I'm taking Philadelphia -4.5 in this game. But Hank's got an upset special. He's got the Lions winning outright against the Eagles. Which
what?
Hey, I like the boldness. Hey, it wouldn't be crazy, like you said, if Jalen Hurts has an off game. What the lines are improved. Maybe Hutchinson, their first round pick, can get to Jalen Hurts. That would be something to see. I just don't see it when you look at who the Eagles have with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert.
They're a little more loaded than past couple of years. I mean, and by the way, we're talking about Jared Goff, the most expensive second-tier quarterback ever.
Yeah, we will. We'll see there, but I like the boldness. I think there are some bold moves, but this is not one of them. I'm taking the Eagles to win -4.5. Nick, it's a Tom McCarthy, Tiki Barber special here on the NFL and CBS. It's the Indianapolis Colts heading to Houston to take on the Texans, and the Colts are favored by 7.
I really don't have much to say for this one, except the Texans are going to be the worst team in football this year. They're not going to win a lot of games. They really don't have a quarterback. Their coaching situation is in shambles. They don't have a wide receiver, really. They don't have running backs. Let's just put it this way. The Texans are going to be a bad team this year. This is the most obvious pick of the week. Take the cover.
Yeah. You talk about the NFC East being the least. This, to me, the AFC South's I think the weakest division because
it's going to be tough football to watch this year.
Well, between the Titans, the Jaguars, and the Texans, and the Colts, who I know, look, Matt Ryan is going to be out there to try and prove all the doubters wrong. He does have Jonathan Taylor there as a running back, maybe the best running back in the league. Hopefully he can stay healthy and put together another great year. I know this is kind of a big line, but I'm like I told you and Tom on our NFL preview show, which folks go check that out after, of course, you pay attention to this. This is the weakest division, but I'm high on the Colts, and I'm not high on the Texans at all. I'm going bold here. I'm going to take the Colts -7 here to win the game outright.
I don't think this is even a doubt. I think this is the easiest line. You and I were talking about this, and we're looking at all the lines. This is the easiest one. By the way, 2 of the best running backs are in this division.
Yeah, and I think they're both under different situations. And I know we're going to get to the Titans game in just a minute here, but I like Jonathan Taylor and Matt Ryan in with the Colts. I think they're set up to win the AFC South this year, even at 9-8. I think that can get it done.
I agree with you.
However, Hank's going to take the Texans to cover, Indy to win, but Houston +7 in this matchup.
So he's expecting some kind of wild game in a sense.
Pretty much. That's what it sounds like. So he thinks maybe it could be like a 24-21, something along those lines. But he's going to take the Texans +7 in this matchup. We head down to Miami. The New England Patriots against the Miami Dolphins. Oh, how the tides have turned. Greg Gumbel, Adam Archuleta, AJ Ross have the call here on the NFL and CBS. It's the Miami Dolphins who are favored over the New England Patriots by 3.5.
Yeah, this was interesting because over the years, most people realize the Patriots were the top team in that division for years. There was no one else. The Dolphins were a joke. The Jets are a joke. Everyone in that division is a joke except for the Patriots. Now, obviously, with Mac Jones being the quarterback and Tom Brady not being there anymore, everyone now thinks they can beat the Patriots, including Vegas. Vegas thinks they can beat the Patriots, too. So, I'm not a big fan, to be honest. Tua and also Tyreek Hill. But who's on the other side? There's really no one on the other side for the Patriots. Where's the defense? They don't have it.
No.
And also, Mac Jones is the sophomore slump going to show up this year. So, unfortunately, even though I don't like the Dolphins situation, I'm going to take them to barely cover. Barely cover.
I'm totally different here. I love what Miami did because as much pressure is going to be on Tua this year. Now he's got a multiple running back duo. He's got Raheem Mostert, who the Dolphins know because of the head coach now down there in Miami. I mean, their coordinator knows about Mostert. Tyreek Hill, I think, is going to have a great year down there. I think they're set up to do really, really well. Tua is going to be a key, but I don't think he needs to be that 30 to 40 passer kind of quarterback to be successful. And this pick also to me is on the Patriots. You know what? I am not high on what they did. I said to me, and this is not a knock on Mac Jones because I like how Mac Jones played last year. It's that whole team around him. And that's why I would not be surprised. See, I say that, and not, of course, this was before the news of Zach Wilson with the Jets, but I think the Patriots have potential to be the worst team in this division because of everything that happened. Yeah, I really do. And I like what the Jets have done. Of course, that pick was before the Zach Wilson injury, and now I'm starting to maybe eat my words already on that, but I'll still say it.
Timing is timing, though. I mean, you can't predict an injury. It's a fallacy of a predetermined outcome, obviously, but
of course, an injury could shape that AFC West up, like we've spoken about before. But I think there's just too much talent on Miami's side. Historically, the Patriots don't do well when they travel down to Miami. It's different though this year because they're not as good as the Dolphins. They
traveled early. They traveled early this week. Also.
I thought that was very interesting. So they traveled Tuesday of the of game week, which I don't know if that's just a mental thing from Belichick that he's trying to get. The
Belichick said it. He's basically said like, "Hey, we need to change it up. We need to go down there and try to. We'll be there 4 days or so before the game." Yeah. Now, I think the Dolphins are a much better team than they once were. The one thing I would criticize is Tyreek opened his mouth too soon, saying that Tua is going to be the big quarterback and he's going to throw and blah, blah. Like, Tyreek, can you let him play a game or two before you start making him the best quarterback in football?
And I know we'll mention this on Game On Tuesday, but the news on Friday about Lamar Jackson. Look for if Lamar does not re-sign in Baltimore, I could see the Dolphins being a great fit for him down there. Given what's going on. But as far as this game goes, Bill Belichick wanted to change things up and go down there. Well, things have changed up because the Dolphins are the better team. So give me Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins -3.5 in this one. And Hank is going to take the Pats to cover, but Miami to win the game. So he's taking, with that extra half a point, he's taking New England +3.5. I'm going to take the Dolphins -3.5 here in this one. We get to your game, Nick. The Baltimore Ravens travel to MetLife Stadium to take on Joe Flacco and the New York Jets. Andrew Catalon, James Lofton, Michael Grady have the call in the NFL on CBS. The Ravens favored by 6.5 against your New York Jets.
Now, I said this on Empty the Bench. I'm going to say it here. We have a new part of our rapid rundown called Bench Locks, where we get to pick a game and double the points if we're right. Well, I used it on this game, and I basically said, this line is not big enough. The Ravens are going to win by a double-digit line, in my opinion, in this game. The Ravens are the much better team. Obviously, Zach Wilson is down for the count until week 4. They don't have an offensive line. They lost Becton, which was a big injury. They just lost Dwayne Brown. I mean, this team's going to be bad. It's going to be a tough year for Jets football. Yeah, take the Ravens.
Yeah, see, I like what the Jets have done this offseason because they didn't make the home run kind of move, whether it was even for Tyreek Hill, because I don't think Tyreek Hill and the Jets would have been a great fit, and you would have had to trade multiple draft picks. I thought the Jets drafted smart. Now we have to go see it, though, out on the field. They drafted smart on paper, but we have to go see it out on the field. See, if you had a full complement of players, either Becton or Dwayne Brown, who we just heard on Friday is going to be out, or even, Zach Wilson, I can almost see the Jets covering this and making this a field goal game, maybe a little extra motivation there at home, but not with Joe Flacco. I mean, it's 2022. And Lamar, I think, off the news that he's not going to sign an extension, I think he goes out there and has a field day. Give me the Ravens minus 6.5 at MetLife Stadium. Hank is also taking the Ravens minus 6.5 in this one.
Also, I just want to say the Jets have historically struggled with running quarterbacks. Yeah. They don't know how to stop them. Lamar's going to run all over them as well.
I'm just going to be very curious to see how Sauce Gardner does in his debut. I like what the Jets did in the draft. I mean, at least on paper it looks good, but now they have to try to put it together because I'm sure I'm speaking for you, Nick. I mean, you've heard all this talk about draft prospects, but you want to go see it out there. I did a big year for Zach too, and now he's out at least till week 4, which is, very, 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 very interesting for sure.
At least it's a legitimate injury, and it's not some entertainment story that we're dealing with him.
And fortunately, it's not a torn ACL, which initially they were fearing it could have been, but it is not going to be.
The season would have been over if that was a torn ACL. It was already over to begin with, but if he had a torn ACL and he was done for the year, it would have been over before the season started.
And I'll bet you would have seen Mike White start week 1 this game if that was indeed the case. I think it's very telling that they're starting Flacco instead of Mike White in a Sunday at MetLife Stadium. Last game of the early window, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Washington Commanders. It's Chris Myers, Robert Smith, Jen Hale on the call in the NFL on Fox. And the Commanders commanding a 2.5-point favorite in this one.
This is just going to be an awful game to watch. In my opinion, Carson Wentz, who's been traded twice now. I don't know how this guy is still in the league, to be quite honest. This guy cannot do it. He keeps getting hurt. If he had won the game with the Colts, ironically, against the Jaguars, he probably is still in a Colts uniform and Matt Ryan doesn't get traded. So this is going to be a bad game. But the Jaguars are worse. So it's basically a barely cover for me here.
So Hank's also taking Washington to win. So you're taking the Commanders to win, right?
Yeah, a barely cover, yeah.
See, Hank's also taking the Commanders minus 2.5. See, this is funny. Like you said, this is a rematch of Week 18 in terms of the quarterbacks with Lawrence against
Wentz?
Against Wentz, right. This Jaguars team, like I told you in the preview show, they're going to be better. They're more stable at head coach now. Trevor Lawrence is another year older. They've got Travis Etienne coming back, his teammate from Clemson. I'll tell you right now, Nick, I would not be surprised. I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 2.5.
Whoa.
I think they can actually win this game. Like you said, I don't trust. I mean, I think the quarterback position is a little bit more stable now there in Washington because everybody wants to look at Week 18 with Carson Wentz. But if you look at his numbers before that, his numbers were actually better than what they were getting out of Heineke over there. But I think the Jaguars are going to have a few more wins this year, and I think this is going to be one of them. And if not, I'm getting 2.5 points. I mean, I would like to buy that up to 3, but I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to take the Jaguars plus 2.5 in kind of an upset special.
Wow.
Here to end the early window.
I just want to say one thing. One of my favorite wide receivers is also on the Commanders, and Terry McLaurin. I played him in fantasy a lot. He is going to catch a lot. Now it's a matter of Carson Wentz can actually get the deep ball to Terry McLaurin, and they will win more games. If they can't get on any chemistry together, they're going to lose a lot of games. So,
yeah. And we'll see. I think they're looking at about the same record they did last year, which was 7-10 over there in Washington. And we get to the late window here, and we get it going with my New York Football Giants. They travel to Tennessee to take on the Titans. It's Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez, Laura Oakman on the call on the NFL on Fox. Nick, the Titans with Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and who knows what else, favored by 5.5 against my New York Giants.
Now, I'm a big Derrick Henry fan. I think if he's healthy, and he's going to be an MVP candidate again this year. Now, I know obviously quarterback's usually the MVP, but he is probably the most valuable player in all of the sport. You're right. What else do they have at wide receiver? They don't have anything. They traded away their top guy to Philadelphia, like we said earlier.
Yep.
But what are the Giants? Daniel Jones, is he going to be the quarterback all season? Is he going to get benched? Is Saquon Barkley going to be healthy? Is Kayvon Thibodeau going to be healthy? There's a lot of questions.
As of now, we still don't know the status of Kayvon Thibodeau. They were saying they're going to see how the next 48 hours progresses, and probably will not know until game time the decision on Kayvon Thibodeau.
So I question Ryan Tannehill also, because he couldn't do it in Miami. He was given a lot of chances in Miami, and Miami finally said, all right, we need to move on. He can't get us over the hump. Mm-hmm. He did well in Tennessee. It looked like they were the number one seed, and then they got bounced, and that scares me. But at the same time, I'm taking Tannehill over Daniel Jones. It's either going to be a cover or it's going to be an upset. I don't see this game going in between just because of the way it's going to go. So I think the Titans will win just because I don't trust the Giant offense right now.
Yeah, I don't trust either team's offense. I think this is going to be one of the lower scoring games of the week. I was going to say that with Jacksonville and Washington. I think that could be the lowest scoring game, but this to me also does not have a high scoring game written on it. I look at Tennessee's team, and yes, they've got Derrick Henry, but let's also remember one thing too. If you remember, and I'm not making excuses for Tannehill, but last year towards the end of the season in the playoffs, that offensive line absolutely did not help at all, and they did not address that offensive line at all. And that line's still a mess. They lost a lot on the receiving side. And do you trust Tannehill with a weak offensive line? Now, then again, at the same time, do you trust the Giants to get to Tannehill? I do. I mean, I would love to have Kayvon Thibodeau 100%. I think he would actually make a big difference in this game. I don't like the Giants secondary, but then again, at the same time, is Tannehill going to be able to throw the deep ball with that? We are definitely going to go through struggles this season. That is for sure. The defense is already banged up. Secondary, awful. We know that. But I just don't think that the Titans are good enough to be favored by 5.5 against anybody. And the Giants may not win this game, but I could definitely see them keeping it to within a field goal and making this very, very interesting late. But, I mean, it's going to be a low-scoring game. I mean, I think we're looking at something like 20-17 just based on how these teams are. So I'm going to take the Giants plus 5.5. They may not win this game, but I'm going to grab the points with the football Giants plus 5.5. And Hank agrees with me. He thinks the Giants are going to cover plus 5.5. So I think we're both going to take Tennessee to win, but I'm going to grab the 5.5 for the Giants to at least cover this number here.
I think also Derrick Henry is going to cover a lot of that line by himself. That's what this team is going to be. When you look at why you're going to watch the Titans, it's Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry gets hurt again, this team is going to be off the map completely. They don't win without him.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I think Jacksonville gets a few extra wins this year, and I think, well, the Texans stink, so I'm not going to even put them in this list, but I had the Titans as an under, and I think they barely win this game. I think the Giants will actually show you some things and make you feel a little bit confident, but I'm going to take them plus 5.5. I'd love to get a win out of here. I don't think they're going to win, though, because they're going through their own struggles, but Tennessee is not 5.5 point good favorite against anybody, but I'll take the Giants plus 5.5 over there in Tennessee. Chiefs and Cardinals at 4:25 Eastern. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson have the call on the NFL on CBS. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, Nick, are 6-point favorites against the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray.
Yeah, the Cardinals kind of had an interesting offseason. I mean, do I really have to go back to Homework Gate and the possible contract that they were going to have? I still think Kyler is a little bit butthurt after that whole situation happened. I mean, they finally had to remove that contract clause because that would have caused a huge chemistry issue the whole season. Yeah. I like James Conner at running back, making a resurgence after getting hurt in Pittsburgh. I think he's going to be splitting with Chase Edmonds. I think with running back reps. Now, DeAndre Hopkins is suspended for 6 games, not going to be at this game. I think that's already your mitigating factor for why the Cardinals will not win this game. If he's at this game, I actually think the Cardinals would cover the spread because I think he makes a huge difference. Now, on the other side, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He will win games on his throwing arm alone.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, no Tyreek Hill down in Miami, who was the big target. You still have Travis Kelce, who's probably the top tight end and the top offensive producer in all the sport. So I'm taking the cover just because DeAndre Hopkins is suspended.
Agree 100%. You know what? If Hopkins is there, I'm not going to say the Cardinals win this game, but I think they keep it to within a field goal. The Chiefs, it's funny because I think the Chiefs have the best quarterback in the AFC West, but they also have the worst defense, and that could be something why you could see the Cardinals maybe get a backdoor cover here. But it's not going to happen with no DeAndre Hopkins. I'm taking the Chiefs -6 to start 1-0 against the Arizona Cardinals. Hank is also yes, he will also take the Chiefs -6 against the Cardinals. Here's one of the games of the week. It's the Las Vegas Raiders in an AFC West battle. The Las Vegas Raiders travel to SoFi Stadium to take on Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Melanie Collins have the call on the NFL and CBS. The Chargers 3.5-point favorites in this AFC West showdown.
You're right. This is probably one of the I would even call this the more underdog game of the week. That most people are going to say, who cares? It's the Raiders, blah, 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 and the Chargers. Now, I said this last season. Justin Herbert is a top 3 quarterback, in my opinion. And he played like one last year. Unfortunately, they got bounced out in the first round. But I like Justin Herbert. I like Eckler. I like, why am I forgetting the wide receiver's name? Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. That team is loaded, and I mean loaded. And trust me, I think the Raiders are going to be good for years to come. I think Derek Carr's finally found his spot now. Too many head coaching changes over the last couple of years, in my opinion, so there's no chemistry being built. I also like Devontae Adams as a target, but I think the Chargers are just way too loaded. I'm taking the cover on the Chargers.
Yeah, see, now all 4 AFC teams have the talent to win this division. I mean, obviously we know that, but is it realistic that all 4 are going to do well? No, I mean it's hard, but the Chargers have the best team on paper going into the season. I have them coming out of the AFC. That's how good I think they are. I think Justin Herbert's going to be right up there with Josh Allen for MVP discussions. See, it's funny because I look at the Chargers and the thing that concerns me is the coach. And I can say the same thing about the Raiders now that Josh McDaniels is there but they have problems the Raiders do on the offensive line and in the secondary, and I think we talked about the weapons that Herbert has, and I think the Chargers are going to exploit that, and I think they could actually almost win this game by double digits. I'm taking the Chargers to get this done with Justin Herbert. So give me the Chargers -3.5, and Hank is also going to take the Chargers -3.5 in this one as well. NFC North showdown. These 2 teams, I believe, are going to be playing for the NFC North title right through Week 18. It's the Green Bay Packers traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, and it's Fox's new A-team on the call. Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi, Mike Pereira. They're all there at the NFL and Fox. Nick, the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers are 1-point favorites, so pretty much a pick-em against Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings.
Now, this is interesting because over the last couple of days, Alan Lazard is out with an injury, which is major. He's the number 1 wide receiver. Now, I don't know what to think about Aaron Rodgers lately just because of the awkward offseason he's had. But looking on the Vikings side, Kirk Cousins, I don't know. He's a wild card. I don't know what to expect with him. He goes down with COVID again, trying to figure out what his situation is. I still think Justin Jefferson is the up-and-coming young wide receiver, and I think he's going to be at the top, along with Jamar Chase and a bunch of other wide receivers at the top. This is an interesting situation. I don't know. If in a pick'em situation, I'm obviously going to go with the home team because usually you give the favor to the home team in a pick'em.
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't know. This is a tough one. This is a tough one.
Want me to go first?
Yeah, go.
because I'm actually I was leaning one way, and as the week's gone on, I've become a little bit more confident in my selection here. The Packers' offensive line is a challenge. They need to play well because Minnesota's got a very good pass rush duo in Hunter and Zarius Smith. Green Bay, I'm concerned about them because of their depth at wide receiver. Losing Devontae Adams, I think, is a big deal. They're not really that deep. Now Alan Lazard is out. I'm not really worried about the antics with Rodgers. I mean, he's still going to put up great numbers this year, but they're not deep at wide receiver. I think the Minnesota Vikings have closed the gap in the NFC North, and I think it starts here with a statement. I think the Vikings win this game in a very close one late. I'm going to take Minnesota. It's pretty much a pick 'em, but I will. If it was 1.5, I'd even be more confident because then all they need to do is, even if they lose 27-26, you still win. But now it's gone down to 1. But I think the Vikings make a bold statement here in week number 1, and they win this game late against the Packers. So give me the Vikings +1 in this one, and Hank is also going to take the Vikings to win the game outright. So he's got him +1 as well.
I mean, this is tough. I mean,
it is one of the tougher games of the week. Yeah.
When you look at, first of all, a -1 favorite, there's really no in between. It's either you're picking them to win or you're not. So there's really no cover or upset. You're basically taking a straight upset if you think the Vikings are going to win. Mm-hmm. I did pick the Packers on my show just because at the time, again, Lazard was healthy.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to seem like a hypocrite and change my pick here, so I guess I got to stick with the Packers in this situation. So,
but I mean, you do make a fair point because if you look at it, like we've been looking at, covers.com is a great site that gets all of your lines here. Green Bay opened up as a 2-point favorite, and the money now lately has been going the other way. I mean, it went down to 1.5, and now Green Bay is just a 1-point favorite. And I wouldn't be surprised if you get close to game time, maybe this line even becomes like a pick 'em or even down to a half, which is pretty much a pick 'em anyway. But yeah, I think Minnesota's going to close the gap. I still think Green Bay's going to win this division, but I think it's going to come down to week 18, and I think they win the division by a game. It's going to be that tight.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I don't want to be a hypocrite. I'm going to stick with my pick with the Packers.
Oh, that's fair. Then we head over to Sunday Night Football, and this is going to be, you're going to have a new theme there because you don't have Al Michaels, you don't have Michelle Tafoya there. It's Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark having the call. It is Tom Brady after his 39-day retirement. He leads the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to Dallas to take on Dak Prescott, and I don't know who else is there on the Dallas Cowboys. The Buccaneers, Nick Zeke, yeah.
Who I don't trust, by the way.
Absolutely. Tampa Bay, 2.5-point favorites in Dallas.
I could just see it now. How about them Cowboys? I'm going to win the division. I'm the best team in football. I have the most money. I'm going to beat everybody. Tom Brady's retired, and he just came back. No, we're going to win. No, I'm kidding. The Buccaneers are going to win this game. This is no doubt. I'm not a Dak fan. Excuse me. I know talking to a Giants fan, obviously, but this is. I think Tom Brady wins this game. I don't think it's going to be a rout like most people are saying, but I definitely think they're going to cover the spread and win. I said it on our previous show, and I said it on our last episode of Empty the Bench. The only way the Cowboys go far, Dak has to be the MVP this year.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I have no problem with Dak, and in fact, we're going to see what he's made of this year because he doesn't have as much to throw to this year as he had in years past. Amari Cooper left. They're down. They did not shore up the line. The loss of Smith is a huge deal down there in Dallas. I think they're probably going to be contending for a wild card because I don't think they're better than Philadelphia this year. I really don't. The interesting thing to watch though this year now with Tampa Bay is their offensive line now is going to start getting some question marks. They're down a few guys, which I think is a huge deal, especially for a 45-year-old Tom Brady who's not very, very mobile. He's one of the last of the non-mobile quarterbacks, so that's something to watch here too. I think this game will actually be on the lower scoring side. I know I saw the over-under, depending on what you look at. It started out at 52. It's down at 50.5. I actually think it's going to even be lower than that. This could be something along the lines of like 27 to, well, that would be 51, but something like 27-23, something like that. I am going to take the Bucs though, -2.5 to win in Dallas against the Cowboys.
Is that ironic, by the way, that 27-23 is considered a low score now in today's game?
Pretty much. I mean, definitely. I mean, these guys can put up 30 points by accident. Of course, my football Giants can score 30 if you paid them to. But But yeah, I'm going to take the Bucks here -2.5, and Hank is also going to take the Bucks -2.5, and that brings us to Monday Night Football. It's Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salter is on the call on ESPN and ABC. It is another revenge game as Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos travel to Seattle to take on Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. And Nick, Russell Wilson and the Broncos, they are 6.5-point favorites in a rematch against Seattle.
It's not enough. And I'm not even kidding. It's not enough. Geno Smith, first of all, if you're a New York football fan, you already get it. You already get it because he's been on both teams and he's stunk it up in both situations. Also, if you really want to get to know a real character that he is, he got punched out by his own teammate with the Jets over money. That situation is a joke. How is Pete Carroll still there?
Yeah, I don't get what they're doing. I mean, I know both of us spoke on one of the very first episodes of Game On about this. I don't get what they're trying to do there in Seattle. If it's a rebuild or a restructure, I think it is a rebuild, but why Pete Carroll is there to lead the rebuild, I don't get. But at the same time, how long is Geno Smith's leash going to be? That's going to be the question. And you know what the funny thing is? When I look at these two teams and I look at the matchups, the Broncos' run defense, I think, is not going to be that good, and it doesn't match up well when you look at the running backs that Seattle has. So in that regard, also given the 12th man, I almost could see a backdoor cover. I could see a cover here, maybe even a backdoor cover from Seattle's side, but there's only one problem: Geno Smith.
Yeah, there's no way.
Any other capable quarterback, and I actually could see the Seahawks covering this. I don't trust Geno. I mean, he better throw the ball just 10 times in this game, and they better go like with a wishbone kind of offense like they do in college in the Army-Navy game. Maybe that would be the way you get the Seahawks to cover this. I don't. You know what? The Broncos are going to be one of those teams. Their rookies last year played very, very well, and I think now with a capable quarterback in Russell Wilson, I think it's going to help them. I'm going to take Denver -6.5 to close out week number 1. Hank will also take the Broncos -6.5.
This is sneaky. It's a sneaky team. Like the Raiders, the Broncos are going to be a good team. People are not going to notice it right away. They're going to progress into a better team. Russell Wilson is there for the long haul, 5 years. I mean, it helps to have Walmart money owning the Broncos, but that's going to be a great team. Didn't take all the money like a blood-sucking vampire, like a certain quarterback that's suspended right now. Right. But that team's going to be good down the stretch. I really think so.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know what? Seattle will steal a win or two at home this year. This will not be the game, though.
And I think Russell Wilson's going to come out like on fire, considering that he's back in Seattle.
And he knows being there, what the crowd is like. And you know what? I think he knows what he's doing. And Denver's team is good. Again, I don't know about their run defense. And you know Seattle's going to try and go to the run a lot because Geno Smith's starting. But I don't see it here. I think Denver pulls away. I think they can win this game by 2 scores easily up there in Seattle to close out number 1. And that closes out our week 1 picks against the spread. If you missed any of that, go back and check it out on our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels. And also, we will have the link posted on our accounts as well. That's facebook.com/GameOnETB, Twitter @GameOnETB, and on our YouTube channel at ETB Network. Subscribe there so you know when our next show is going to be. And also, our Instagram account is at GameOn_ETB. So Hank will be back with me on Tuesday. Nick, thanks for filling in for him today about your picks. So go check out Nick along with Federa and Tom Albano over on Empty the Bench. And Hank and I will talk to you again on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern for episode 25 of Game On. Enjoy the football, everybody.